Okay, so like I mentioned yesterday, we are going to be doing more practice for our trig quiz tomorrow. So looking at this first question here, we have a couple of triangles put together. So we know the measure of this side is 5 meters. We have an angle here of 35 degrees. We have the hypotenuse measure of this triangle of 12 meters. And we want to find this angle x. Okay, so what we see, we want to find x, but we don't have enough information in this triangle, so we actually need to start over here. So what would be helpful to have is the measure of this side. So looking at what we have here, we have the angle. In relation to this angle, the side we want to find is the adjacent, and the side that we're given is the opposite. So the opposite is here, the adjacent is this side here. Using opposite and adjacent, that means we want to use tan. So tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. Tan, our theta, our angle, is 35 degrees. The opposite side is 5 meters, and the adjacent we need to find. So we leave that as A. So we need to rearrange the equation to solve for A. So first we're going to move this divide by A to the other side, meaning we're going to multiply. So we'll have A times tan 35 equals 5. Now we still need to get A by itself. So that means we need to move the tan 35 to the other side. There's multiplying between these two components. So when we move the tan 35 to the other side, we'll actually be dividing it. So the adjacent side is equal to 5 divided by tan 35. Okay, so in the calculator, I'll be putting 5 divided by 35 tan equals, and our adjacent side we get 7.14 meters. Okay, so I'm going to write A equals 7.14. Now, in this triangle, in relation to the angle x that we need to find, we have the opposite side. So this is no longer adjacent. We're going to have, let's go to a different color. So we'll have our opposite side being the 7.14, and we have the hypotenuse since it's across from that 90 degrees. And we want to find angle x. So having opposite and hypotenuse, we're going to use sine. So sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Filling in what we know, sine, the angle is x, the opposite is 7.14, and the hypotenuse is 12 meters. Getting x by itself, we need to move that sine to the other side. It will become a sine inverse of 7.14 divided by 12. So 7.14 divided by 12 equals, and then second, so that we can have our sine inverse. So we get an angle of 36.5 degrees. Okay, so in a question, you might not necessarily be able to go straight to the answer. There could be a few steps along the way. Just break it into separate parts to be able to get to that final answer. Okay, looking at another word problem, Karina looks up at the top of a tree at an angle of elevation of 72 degrees. She looks down at the bottom of the tree at an angle of depression of 40 degrees. If she is standing 2 meters away from the tree, how tall is the tree? Okay, so we have Karina. We have our tree. We have the horizontal. And we know that she's standing 2 meters away. And she's looking both to the bottom and to the top of the tree. With the angle of elevation, so going from the horizontal up, this is 72 degrees. And if we're going from the horizontal down, that angle of depression is 40 degrees. Okay, so we want to know how tall the tree is. So we see that we have two separate triangles here. And if we were to add those pieces together, we would get the height of the tree. So we have two separate triangles. We have this one here, we have this angle, 72. We want to know this piece of the tree height, and we know that the horizontal, this distance between Karina and the tree is 2 meters. So 2 meters goes here. So solving that first one, we have an angle. In relation to that angle, we have the adjacent and we want the opposite. So adjacent, opposite. Having opposite and adjacent, we're using tan. So tan theta equals O over A. Tan, and our angle is 72 degrees. Our opposite, we use x, and our adjacent is 2. Rearranging for x, we want to move that divide 2 to the other side, so it's going to be multiply. So 2 times tan 72 equals x. In the calculator, I'm putting 72 tan times 2. And we get 6.2 meters for the top piece of the tree. And now looking at the other triangle, we have this one here to find the bottom piece of the tree, this length here. So with this one, we were given an angle of depression, so we know this angle is 40 degrees. And again, we know from Karina to the tree is 2 meters, so this piece is also 2 meters. So we have an angle, we have the adjacent side, and we want to find the opposite side. Adjacent's here, opposite. Again, opposite and adjacent, we are using tan. Putting in our values, tan, our angle is 40. Opposite, we don't know, is y we need to find. And adjacent is 2. Rearranging that, we're going to bring the divide by 2 over and multiply. So 2 times tan 40 equals y. So 40 tan times 2 we get 1.7 meters. Okay, so we have this piece as x. We have this piece as y. So to find the height of the tree, we actually want to add x and y together. So x plus y equals our height of the tree. Our x is 6.2 plus our y, which is 1.7. Get 7.9 meters. So since we have a word problem here, the last step, we found how tall the tree is. We just want to write a therefore statement. So therefore, the tree is 7.9 meters tall. Okay, one more question here. Two buildings are 30 meters apart. Let's just start drawing now. So we have two buildings. We have the ground. We know that these buildings are 30 meters apart. The angle of elevation from the top of the shorter building to the top of the taller building is 25 degrees. So we are going to have a horizontal going across from the shorter building, and we are going to have a line going from the top of the shorter building to the top of the taller building. Now, the angle that's created here is 25 degrees. The angle of depression from the top of the shorter building to the base of the taller building is 45. So we then have from the top of the shorter building to the bottom of the taller one. The angle of depression, so going from the horizontal down, that angle that's given is 45 degrees. What is the height of the taller building to the nearest meter? So we have our diagram. We have two triangles looking very similar to our last question. We want to find the height of this triangle here, the height of this triangle here, and add those together. So we need piece X and piece Y put together. Looking at the first triangle, the top piece, we have 25 degrees. We want to find X, and between the buildings is 30 meters. So this is 30 meters here. So in relation to our angle, we have our opposite side and our adjacent side. Opposite and adjacent means tan. Tan theta is opposite over adjacent. So tan of 25 degrees equals, our opposite is X, our adjacent is 30. Solving for X, we bring the divide by 30 to the other side, so 30 times tan 25 equals X. In the calculator, 25 tan times 30, we get 13.98, so I'm going to round that to 14 meters. Okay, so we have the top part of our building. Now looking at the bottom part of our building is this triangle. We have the 45 degrees. We want to know Y, and we know between the buildings is 30, which will be this measurement here. Okay, so based on our 45 degrees, the 30 meters is the adjacent side, the Y is the opposite. Once again, tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. Fill in your values. Our theta, our angle is 45. Opposite we are calling Y, and adjacent is 30. Getting Y by itself, move the divide by 30 to the other side. 30 times tan 45 equals Y. In your calculator, 45 tan times 30, we get 30 meters. Okay, so we know the height of the top piece of the building is 14 meters. We know the height of the bottom piece of the building is 30. So the total height is going to be adding those together. So our height is x plus y. Our x is 14. Our y is 30. So our height of our building is 44 meters. Last thing we need to do with the word problem, we write our therefore statement. Therefore, the height of the taller building is 44 meters. Okay, so again, take these one step at a time. Draw what you know. We can go one sentence at a time. First, draw your buildings that are 30 meters apart, and then keep adding all of your values from there, just as you read each sentence. Okay, so you will be given a worksheet of word problems to practice. Again, tomorrow there will be a quiz on SOHCAHTOA and the word problems. Let me know if you have any questions.